Hey guys, welcome to Mr. K's Flight School series on bombing. In this video we're going to talk specifically about bombing, which is something I went over in the longer video, the tips and tricks, which I'm really glad so many of you liked. But now I want to talk specifically about bombing, which is something I've seen some people complaining about in game, and something I've even had to teach some of the basics to some of the members of PHJ. Bombing's the kind of thing that comes naturally to some people, especially if you've done other flight sims, but it could easily not as well if you don't understand some of the basic physics or stuff about the trajectories and flight paths of various things and how you auto-release the bomb and on what level plane you should kind of maintain your own aircraft and all that kind of stuff. So this is kind of a video just to explain some of that basic stuff. I'm going to throw in a few diagrams, hopefully help you visualize some of what I'm talking about, and include a few kind of examples as well. Hopefully you find it helpful. This is going to be a quick video, so stick with me, and yeah, why don't we kick off? So just like the tips and tricks video, this video is going to have a couple of different sections to it. I'm going to go over those in a bit, but the first section's so basic, I just wanted to get it out of the way first. And the first section is, don't be an idiot. It sounds really basic, but you'd be surprised how easy it is to make these mistakes sometimes. Even seasoned pilots will make them, but especially when you're getting off, starting, you're flying, and bombing in particular, there are some things you should be aware of. Like the fact that a bomb is a high explosive, and its explosive isn't, a radius that just extends two-dimensionally around the ground. It extends into the air in an arc. You can't be dropping bombs kind of closer to the ground than 15 meters and be expecting to kind of make it out without a scratch on your plane. If you're very close to the, and you see people do this all the time, if you're very close to the ground when you drop that bomb, you're just going to blow yourself up, pretty simply. So that's the first thing. Don't be an idiot. And then kind of related to that, which we'll talk a bit more later about, kind of the run-ups you take to bombing runs. You just need to kind of give yourself enough room to maneuver. If there's only going to be like one moment as you're hanging kind of perfectly in the sky over the ground that you could drop the bomb and feasibly get any kills, that's going to be really difficult to pull off. Just don't do it. Don't pull a really tight turning circle to try and get one bomb off. Just wave off, come back around. It's not worth potentially ruining your plane on the off chance you pull off this thing that looks really cool, but really just kind of wasn't worth it in the end. So that's first tip. Don't be an idiot. Okay, so now we've covered section 1, don't be an idiot, once again. It's time to go on to section 2, which is about the conditions under which you should undertake bombing runs. It might sound a bit crazy, but some people need it spelt out. You shouldn't be trying to bomb people whilst other aircraft are gunning for you. Kind of in the order of priorities, how it goes is you need to cleanse the airspace, sterilize it, make sure there are no enemy fighters around, and then you can go on to conduct your bombing runs. It's fairly simple. You have to fly fairly straight, and especially if you're flying against stuff like anti-aircraft guns on the ground, it's just going to be that much harder if you're taking fire from the ground and the air. If that means you have to coordinate a little bit and have some people doing the air stuff while others are carrying out a little bit of the bombing to support the troops on the ground, that's fine. Try and coordinate that, but you definitely can't be kind of under a serious air attack and bombing at the same time. It's just not going to work out well for you. That said, there's a bit of a symbiosis here. It'd be hard to deal properly with any air attacks whilst you're being shot from the ground. So if there are loads of AA guns up, then it might be worth breaking off from chasing a plane to go and drop a quick bomb on some of the AA guns. We'll go over bombing with AA guns specifically in a little bit, but it's just, it's worth saying that straight off the bat. You need to make sure that the airspace is sterile before you can consider going on bombing runs. So that's step 2. Ensure that the conditions are conducive for your bombing run. So now we've talked about the first step, don't be an idiot when you're approaching these things. The second step, make sure that the conditions are right for you to be going on these bombing runs. Make sure that the airspace is clear. Now we can talk about setting up for the run itself, the kinds of things you need to be thinking about. This is the kind of the part that most people would struggle with, I imagine. You need to think about at what angles you should be releasing the bomb from the plane, and where the bomb is going to strike into the ground. So, for instance, in the best possible scenario for a bombing run, you have a very long lead up to your target, time for you to kind of fly in, balance out your plane so you're essentially level, and to kind of think about at what point you're going to be releasing the bomb to effectively hit the target. Obviously that's ideal. It's not going to be the same in every situation. Sometimes you're going to have a lot less time. If you spotted a jeep and you don't want to lose track of it, you're going to kind of swoop into it a little bit more, audaciously. And in that case, you need to ensure that, even if it's only for a second, you level off when you actually drop the bomb. It's never really a good idea to have your plane unbalanced in any one particular direction, veering slightly to the left or to the right, because if you think about how the bomb is mounted under the fuselage, it's going to mean that it releases at an odd angle, and unless you're trying to bomb specifically in that angle, which you can do, although it requires a bit of work, then you want to be basically facing a positioned essentially level in order to drop the bomb effectively. Other things to consider are the pitch of the nose. If you're pitched further, the nose is down, then you're going to have less flight time on the bomb before it smacks into the ground. So if the jeep is coming onto you head on, then it's a good idea to pitch your nose down, because then the bomb will hit the ground earlier. On the other hand, if you're going for something that's a little bit further away, you might want to pitch your nose up so that the bomb has a little bit more hang time before it smashes into the target. So that's thinking about the various angles involved. In terms of the angle of approach, it kind of depends upon the target. For something like a position in sandbags, you almost never want to be flying exactly on a very low level towards it. Although it makes sense, the artillery, the anti-air gun will never be able to really pivot below the sandbags at a certain point to be able to actually rattle off shots against you. Flying that low is firstly good cause for you to blow up your own plane if you're not having good enough distance between you and the bomb, and it's difficult to kind of release the bomb exactly right. Much easier is actually to approach it from a slightly higher angle, gun run a little bit beforehand just in case you could headshot the guy, and then release in such a way that it can definitely land into the sandbags, because they haven't modeled the physics appropriately. Really, like a bomb dropped even outside of the sandbags, or to kill whoever's in the sandbags, because it would just blow everything to shit. But that's not how it works. Even if it's slightly outside of the sandbag, it's not going to do any damage. You need to land it right in that sucker. So the best thing to do often, at least when you're beginning, is to approach it from a high angle, almost dive bomb into that thing. That way you're going to ensure that you're going to hit your target. That's another thing to think about. Whilst it's definitely true that most bombing is easier if you release on the level, and you release kind of such... Generally you think about the flight path of the bomb as such that it'll hit the ground if you're level at roughly the same time at which you fly over that specific area of ground. So with that in mind, that's when you should be thinking about releasing bombs to hit targets. Obviously it depends on the pitch and the level and the orientation of your plane. But if you're struggling with that particularly, then against static targets especially, it's easier to consider things like dive bombing. It's a way to ensure you're getting those first couple of kills with bombs, and then once you've moved on and you've got bomber, bronze, silver, gold, you're mounting 2, 3, 4 bombs on your plane, it's a lot easier to try different experimentations. But once you have only that first bomb, you want to get hits with it. You don't want to kind of waste it by trying stuff out. Having said that, obviously practice makes perfect. The only way you're going to get good at this stuff is by actually trying out. So yeah, I mean, I've thrown a lot of information at you there, but if you think about it all, it should make some degree of sense, and should improve your bombing game, hopefully. So that's section 3, the setting up for the bombing run itself. One kind of addendum thing I'd like to mention is something we talked about in tips and tricks. I don't want to go over it again massively here, but when you're choosing where to bomb, it's always obviously very helpful to look at the map to decide where the likely concentration of enemy force is going to be, and to that end, a lot of getting good bombs is kind of partly luck, in that you're just lucky that, you know, the number of people there are there when they're there. You kind of have no control over if people are going to conglomerate or not, and obviously that's going to yield you the most effect on your explosives. But coupled with that luck is, you know, the forethought to make the most of the situation. So in the video above, I noticed that D2 was being captured back by us, so I thought, okay, well that means there's no troops in D2 from their side, or at least not many, so they must all be gathering at the next place to come back and do an assault. Head over there, it does happen to be about 5 of them on a jeep, drop a bomb, get 5 kills. You know, lucky that happened, definitely, but you know, you need to be able to think about that kind of stuff in order to capitalize the most on those situations. So that's just, you know, one thing I wanted to say. It's partly luck, but partly forethought about where you're going to get the best bang for your buck, or bang for your bomb, as it were. So we've covered section 1, don't be an idiot. We've covered section 2, setting up for the bombing run, cleansing the airspace, all that kind of stuff. We've just covered the actual bomb run itself, the approach, what angles you want to be thinking about, how to approach static targets, all that kind of stuff. So the final thing to consider is really just kind of releasing the bomb, what to do afterwards. This is fairly simple, should be fairly obvious. After you've released the bomb, pull away, don't follow it into the ground. If you fancy it, if you're confused about where you're kind of landing, if you hold shift, you can free look in the plane and reorient it to look at the drop of the bomb. That might be helpful for you. And after you've expended all of your bombs, be that 1 or be it 4, you then need to get back into the airspace, see that the airspace is still clear, or reassume kind of, you know, gun running the ground. That's essentially all there is to it. If you have any more questions, feel free to comment on the video below. I'll try and provide some answers for you. The only further advice I can give you is just what I said before: practice makes perfect. The only way you're going to get better is by trying out all the various different things, and you know, there'll be crazy situations where something might just work, and you know, then that'll make sense to you. But yeah, I hope you found this useful. Like I said, please leave comments, please subscribe if you enjoy these kinds of videos. I'm going to try and do, you know, a few more videos for this flight school stuff, talk about gun running, talk about dogfighting, talk about how to kill paratroopers, and just generally how to, you know, get the most out of the flying game of Heroes and Generals, because it's a hell of a lot of fun, it really is. Yeah, I hope you enjoyed this again, and I'll see you in the skies. Thanks for watching.